Yesterday we covered 3 different sections. We covered innovations from scratch, building killer partnerships, and started in on winning strategies declassified. Innovations from scratch was really cool because we started looking at, forming a company. We talked everything about, funding trends, not just like what's out there, but how are they investing. We talked everything about regulations and the debate around the FDA. And I thought that discussion about the product roadmap, building a product in this space was amazing. Business models, Wainwright Fishburne shared an incredible keynote on the business model possibilities that are out there and how to sort of think about that, how to kind of maybe rethink some of your business models perhaps in the future. He sounds like a great person to contact for that, in my opinion. One of my favorite sessions, of course, was our Broken Business, called it Broken Businesses, but the businesses that didn't quite go the way they thought they would. So the 3 CEOs that participated up there, as I called them, the brave souls, that were kind enough to lend us their insights, their mistakes. I make mistakes probably every 5 minutes. So, these people are doing it on grand scales with major investors' money. So it was really nice to get insights from them. We had a wonderful lunch session called Lifelong Tech, Aging by Design, where we had Frog and AARP up here talking about the importance of design, how this market, this burgeoning market, yet struggling market in the aging space needs to kind of come together, and they're even discussing working together and helping people gain some guidelines around development of products within that market. And we had the opportunity, Robin Raskin from Living Digital Times and myself, to announce Lifelong Tech that will be launching this year at CES in January to address all of these things. Not only the developments within this, the 50-plus market, but the longevity solutions, kind of new ways to think about distribution, all that good stuff. Start planning that and give me a month. Then we moved on to partnerships, killer partnerships, and what it takes to build them and the dynamics. And one of the things that I learned yesterday was, these people really got along. And I loved it because one of the things I noticed, both with, in particular, MC10 and Reebok and IBM and Watson, the relationships were there. And I thought that was really nice. I don't know that that's required for a successful business, but I thought it was really interesting that they have these incredible relationships that are building, and what an insight into the dynamic of what it takes, aside from all that business muckety muck. They really had a great dynamic together. And it was a real pleasure to have the VA and Humetrix up here sharing their insights as well. So we moved on to Winning Strategies Declassified, where we had, Cedars-Sinai and UCSF all sharing great insights on how you can work with them, how they are developing technology and solutions from within, et cetera. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to be fast. So the Art of the Medical Deal, fantastic. All the videos will be available online if any of you missed them, because these are worth listening to. Countdown to Launch, both Mayo and Better talked not only about their partnership, but how they built and launched their product. And I found that incredibly interesting because we have a startup that is Better, and we have Mayo that is not a startup, and how they work together. And so that was really, it was a treat. I had a lot of people talking, pulling Jeff aside last night, asking questions as well. We had a really, really, really great discussion with Derek from Jif about platforms and mass I don't want to say mass distribution, but reaching customers on grand scales. It was fantastic to kind of understand the old word, corporate wellness. it sounds a little boring. So thank God for technology is kind of making it sound a little sexier now, and we're able to kind of, they in particular, but a lot of others are creating these platforms and solutions for employers. And as we know, the with the Affordable Care Act, they're really making it a priority for businesses to do this, and for employers to do this. They're giving them incentives to do this. So now we have, a whole different dynamic now that, of course, they're like, oh, there's an incentive. So anyway, and we wrapped up the day with what I thought was just such a fun one with Dr. Jordan Schlain. The topic was, reinventing the doctor-patient relationship for the 21st century, but I think he just really kind of brought it all together, which is kind of bringing the person and patient into the mix. And as Robin mentioned to me earlier, someone mentioned something about the struggle between technology and the human. And so I think these are still challenges that I'm pretty sure everyone out there is working on. And I know I still have questions about some of my devices that I'm using, going, why am I using this? So I think that you entrepreneurs have a lot in front of you. So let's talk about today. Today, part 4, trendy opportunities. Trendy opportunities is exactly what it is. I called it trendy opportunities because I think that we're looking at trends and we're looking at opportunities. And I think one of the things that we'll be really fortunate to hear is this morning, Jeff Arnold, who I'm going to invite up in a second, he's created a company that is reaching people in extremely unique ways and looking at different markets. And I think that's something that sometimes we are so siloed into looking at, this is our audience, this is our market. And I think one of the things that might be nice for you is to kind of, open up those glasses a little bit, maybe take them off and say, I didn't even think about this market. So for me, it's just listening to examples. Not that you will pick the same thing that they did, but I think it might be a real inspiration for you. So I'm sure it will be really helpful. We have an incredible market report, Dana Rupert from Frost & Sullivan, announcing the study that they prepared for this. Moving on to a bunch of other stuff, but I'm gonna move on because I'm already 2 minutes over. Just a quick note. As always, we do immensely appreciate, not just a little bit, immensely appreciate our sponsors that we get to work with to help put these kinds of events on. We love the intimacy of this event, so we will continue to produce this. So next up is Jeff Arnold. So he's chairman and CEO of Sharecare. So for those of you that weren't here yesterday, I only give fun facts. I don't read your bios because there are bios in the book. Please look at them. Incredible backgrounds. Fun fact about Jeff. Toward the end of President Clinton's second term, the president asked Jeff to help him brainstorm how to harness the power of the internet to create an online platform for his ongoing charitable work that could be accessible to everyone. In 2004, Jeff and his team actually built and launched the website for the Clinton Presidential Center at clintonfoundation.org. Really? Okay. Sorry. Congratulations.
I didn't know where that fun fact was going to go, but okay, perfect. Well, thanks for having us here today. This is an awesome space. Appreciate being here. Our business is Sharecare, and kind of my personal passion is all around consumer-driven healthcare, and how do you actually achieve patient engagement to have impact. And we're going to talk a little bit about trendy opportunities and some of the different ways that we have been able to monetize our strategies. But the way I thought I would kind of walk you through that is kind of take you through an analogy of a skyscraper, because that's how we kind of think of our business at Sharecare. So here's all the different floors and functionality that we have at Sharecare, and then I'm going to give you hopefully some creative ways that we've been applying that. What's been fun about kind of building this skyscraper out is often these floors aren't new ideas. So there's health risk assessment floors, there's clinical decision support floors, there's online scheduling floors, there's connected devices floors, there's medical record floors. But what's been unique is we've been able to take all those floors and services and put it in one stack in one place to best serve our customers. So with that, let me just get you, I think I'm at the end of my presentation. Let me go back to the beginning here. is to give you a little bit of background. So I was the founder of WebMD in 1998, and I've done some other things along the way. Most recently, I had a company called How Stuff Works that we sold to Discovery Channel. And when I went to Discovery, I got introduced to Oprah, who introduced me to Dr. Oz. And Dr. Oz said, if you could redo WebMD over 10 years later, how would you do it? And I kind of thought about it. I went back, I looked at WebMD on the Wayback Machine, and thought that the site looked very similar. And it was still kind of in that Web 1.0, providing amazing resources to millions of people every month. But thought, wouldn't it be great if you could build a stool with 3 legs, and one of those legs could focus on the technology and make it social and local and mobile. One leg of the platform could focus on building partnerships, so that if you could get trusted health and wellness brands to work together, then eventually all boats would rise with the tide and there'd be more things for more people to do. And then lastly, could we create a stool that inspired digital caregiving? So instead of there being a WebMD, you could turn every person or every doctor into being their own WebMD. So that was the idea. We've raised, $100-something million in the last couple of years going after that idea. And the way we put together our investor group was also kind of interesting, is I wanted to have media investors because I thought it was really important to be able to get directly to the person and not have to wait for traditional healthcare channels to educate consumers of these new strategies. So, Dr. Oz and Oprah and Discovery Channel and Sony and Hearst became investors. And then most recently, I've been focused on the point of care. So if I can drive awareness to consumers, how do I then make that work at the point of care? So we've had 10 large hospital systems across the country invest in us recently, and it's kind of an interesting 1-2 punch of kind of media meets healthcare. We've also been really focused on building lots of different partnerships in an attempt to create a vibrant marketplace. What we've learned in these marketplace strategies is it's not kind of one size fits all. There's a little bit of different motivation in it for everybody. So we do small things like, monthly Twitter chats. I think we just did one on the Blue Button with the CDC or the government. We do collaborative things, like we built a CPR app narrated by Dr. Oz with the Red Cross. We do really big things, like we built an entire Sharecare for the Army to help their soldiers be more physically and mentally resilient. So it's a little bit all across the board, every motivation a little bit different. What inspires people to partner and to attack these strategies is everybody's hope that we're now in 2014 and these new technologies and consumer-driven healthcare can really start to empower people to achieve optimal health. And a lot of times what I talk about at Sharecare to our folks is that I don't want to be in the disease management business. I want to be in the human potential business. And how do we take these strategies to help people achieve optimal health? So to do that, we thought that we needed to come up with our own algorithm for health. And the algorithm for health that we came up with, so kind of our be-all you could be, was data plus knowledge equals engagement. So there's lots of big data strategies, there's lots of content strategies, there's lots of tactics for engagement. The lens that we look out of our skyscraper from is how do we put all those things together? So the data plus the knowledge creates the sustainable engagement. And our floors that we go through, that I'll take you quickly through, is we think of as data doors. So I'll talk to you about RealAge and AskMD and connected devices and others, but this kind of algorithm for health is how we think about everything that we do. We picked patient engagement because we think that patient engagement is kind of the keys to unlock improved health outcomes and lower cost. And it's not that surprising to me that when you do surveys with consumers, the number one thing they say they want in these digital solutions is they want all their stuff in one place, just like their financial services or their travel planning. Nobody's yet been able to really do that in health yet because of fragmentation. If you follow the money, there's so much money being invested in the electronic medical record space with meaningful use and other things, but consumers aren't adopting them. They're not using them. Their patient portals are usually pretty boring. If you go to where a lot of the activity is and you look at the app stores, you'll see over 100,000 different health and fitness apps, but very few get downloaded and even less get used. And now we're seeing the momentum of all the big guys coming into the space saying, I'm going to make all these connected devices talk together, and I'm going to create data plus knowledge plus an engagement through the phone. So there's lots of kind of excitement around patient engagement, but I don't think we've yet hit that real tipping point yet that's created the impact. To create that impact, we believe that you have to have a comprehensive approach, and you need to create a health profile. And a lot of times in healthcare, and I know it's corny out here in San Francisco, but they haven't built those Apple brands yet that make people think different, or the be-all-you-can-be's, or just do it. They just don't exist. And so you have to get inspired a lot of times outside of healthcare to figure out how to actually create change. For us, we believe that comprehensive health profile is what's going to make a difference to consumers. And so if you look at somebody like Amazon, we always look at them as kind of the best example of basically being able to take information, drive it to personalization, drive it to precision, where they're using predictive analytics to ship product to your back door before you even know you're going to buy it yet. But using intelligence, predictive analytics, and being very comprehensive, they've been able to capture your retail profile. So the approach that we're taking in building out a health profile in this skyscraper approach is as follows. So one is, our goal is to always understand where our users are coming from so that we can geolocate them. So this is an example of Jennifer Payne from Nashville, Tennessee, showing up at ShareCare. What's become interesting about our business is about 70% of our revenue is actually business to business, so we're a B2B play, 30% is B2C. But I love being in the B2C space because I think it gives us a lot of street credibility when we're selling to large hospital systems, or we're selling to the military, or we're selling to self-insured employers, so that we can say, hey, I'm going to send out 1 billion emails this year. I've got 20+ million people I'm interacting with every 30 days on our websites. I manage 8 million people, our followers in Facebook and Twitter. I think you have to have kind of those key insights to give the credibility to the people that are paying for a lot of the healthcare services out there. So Jennifer comes to our site, and the first thing we want Jennifer to do is to take the Real Age test. So this was kind of a big bet on our part. We went to Hearst and paid them $65 million to buy Real Age from them. And when we looked at Real Age, we said, Real Age is not, to us, even really a company. It's not a website. It's a registration platform. And we know people like to take it because now 40 million people have taken the Real Age test. And we know the science is really good. So in January, there was a paper published in one of the medical journals where we took 190,000 death certificates in California and matched it to people who had previously taken the Real Age test with the theory that this would be the most accurate predictor of mortality. So if a person's life expectancy, say, was 80 years old and their Real Age was +5, then we showed with the death certificate that that person died at 75. And if it was -5, they lived to be 85. And so it's really powerful kind of health risk assessment that we were able to kind of prove out how good its accuracy is. The military has gotten so excited about that study, they now mandate 2,000+ soldiers every day take the Real Age test. So for us, in our skyscraper, this is kind of the lobby. It's our registration platform. And so Jennifer Payne comes in, takes the Real Age test, and then we onboard Jennifer into what we call a safe social platform. So we looked at the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Tumblrs and the Pinterest and all the great sites out there and said these are amazing strategies that we can borrow for engagement, but those platforms weren't built for patient to provider collaboration. So for HIPAA and other things, we got to modify it a little bit. But when Jennifer takes that test, we want to recommend her topics because we know she has heart disease in her family. We know she has a son with autism. We know she's pre-diabetic. We know she wants to get more fit. So we put together a platform similar to Twitter where you can follow anything from allergies to women's health. And then we had to start to build a country club. So we sent out tens of thousands of invitations and to get experts to join the platform. So everybody from Dr. Oz to Johns Hopkins to the American Cancer Society. So about 15,000 experts on board. And then we wanted to recommend programs. So if I could take you from a topic to an expert to a program, and then have that manifest itself in almost kind of a digital magazine in the form of a personalized profile page. And to do that, you have to have tons of content because everybody in this room's profile page would be different based on what your test results are and based on what your activity is. But that's kind of a big kind of content driver inside our platform. Kind of the next floor of functionality that we've been working on is, what do we do with all these devices and all these evidence-based programs? So we said for us, I think there's 3 things that have to work together. One is we have to have evidence-based programs, right? So if we put you in a weight loss program or a sleep program or a reverse diabetes program, or I try to get you to stop smoking, we have to make sure the science is good, and if you do what we ask you to do, it works. Second, we wanted to connect all the devices, right? So how do we take your Fitbits and your Jawbones and your weight scales and your social graphs and your calendar and your music, put those in the programs. And then lastly, how do we show better outcomes? So we had to do all the work and say, if I get you to stop smoking, then I know that improves your real age by 6 years, and I know I can save whoever's paying for your benefits $3,200 a year. So the three of them had to work together. It's been kind of really exciting doing this because you start off and you build the content out for, say, a weight loss program, and you have to gamify it, and you have to do leaderboards and badges to make it fun. And then we said, in the spirit of the Internet of Things, how do we put these devices together? So what I would like is I'd like for my Sharecare app to wake up and say, you know, Jeff, I see you're in San Francisco. The first thing I did is look at the weather, and it's, you know, 70 and sunny outside. I've looked at your calendar, and your first meeting's at 9 a.m. I've gone into your Runkeeper account. I've mapped you a run around your hotel. When you start to run, I'm going to play you music from iTunes in which you get your best times. And when you finish it, I'm going to give you a 2-day micropayment on your real age. And so, you know, so how do you make all that stuff work together? And it's kind of fun because the Internet of Things is here. It's no different than Cisco sitting up here using that same example saying, hey, my alarm clock wakes up and sees that there's traffic, sees that your car's out of gas, knows there's a delay on the ferry, so I'm going to let you sleep 5 minutes more, and I'm going to fire up the car before you get up to defrost, and I'm going to start your coffee maker. All this stuff is, in all industries, is all colliding together very quickly, and it's very exciting if you can put context to that. So the next floor of the skyscraper that we thought was critical was, you know, a lot of the things I've been talking about is wellness related, but we know people are going to get sick along the way, and we want to be able to track their symptoms just like their steps. And so we started thinking about it, and actually, Dr. Oz was at Davos, and he called up, and he's like, you know, I needed to come up with a big idea for an app. And I was like, we need to figure out how to put your exam room into a smartphone. So we started studying clinical decision support platforms, and there was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Larry Weed, who's a real kind of pioneer and leader in medical informatics. And he had a company up in Vermont called PKC that the DoD had invested about $55 million in since 2007. And it was a way that doctors could talk to each other in places like Iraq when patients or soldiers would come in and present symptoms. So we bought that, and we said, we're going to turn that into an iPhone app called AskMD. And it launched in December. We won the Appy Award a couple weeks ago for Best Medical App. But it's pretty cool. For me, it's kind of like Watson meets Uber. So you go into it, and you click it, and you say, I've got abdominal pain. It gives you a series of smart questions. It then yields you a differential diagnosis. So Jeff, abdominal pain with those symptoms, you have diverticulitis, and then it sources all the medical literature of how it came to that conclusion. And then you click a button, and it shows you a map of doctors in your area that accept your insurance that treat diverticulitis. We partnered with HCA, which is a big, you know, $30 billion health system, as the exclusive partner for that. And now this is becoming kind of an operating platform in itself. So now we're starting to take AskMD as the front end and marry it to telemedicine on the back end. We're doing online couponing because you have to give the drug to get the diagnosis. We're adding transparency tools. So if you got diverticulitis, here's what it's going to cost you to go to that particular facility versus that facility. But again, just kind of figuring out how you take a technology, slice it into an overall skyscraper, and get all these pieces to work together. Another piece of the puzzle that we think is important that a lot of people have tried, and we're taking a different approach to it to see if this works, is if you want to become somebody's health profile, we think one of the things that you need to be able to offer is the ability to aggregate health records and put them up in the cloud and store them for the person, update them for the person, share them for the person, and be able to take that data and be able to update your real age score, put the medications in AskMD, and be able to do more with that record. So the approach we took is, in healthcare, there's a sector called the release of information space. So if I called Mass General right now and I said, I want my medical records, they have to give me my medical records. So we bought a company that has about 2,000 hospital clients and had done 500 APIs into the different EMRs and processes a few million of those requests a year. And so here in the next quarter, you'll be able to come to Sharecare and say, I'd like you to go get my records, here's my consent, here's where they're at, and then we're going to go do all the work for you and stick it up in your health profile. So it's another kind of another piece of functionality that we think is going to be important. And then we're going to start to educate consumers on the importance of controlling their personal health records, similar to how Equifax has taught us that it's important to control your credit report. So in consumer-driven healthcare, we also think connected health is really important. And so the approach that we're taking here is Jennifer Payne gets her profile page, and as we're delivering her content and delivering her programs and connecting devices to her and AskMD and her health records, ultimately we want to be able to have a digital bridge back to her provider. And so we looked at the provider space and we said, well, first, what's the business card of the future going to look like for a doctor? And how often are doctors even looked for online? And so we looked up the research and said, the average doctor gets Googled 80 times per month. We need to build them an interactive business card. The way it works is Jennifer Payne goes to Dr. West's profile page that maybe he directed her to, or maybe she found it through search, and she can follow Dr. West. If Dr. West starts to put any content up, maybe he blogs, maybe he puts up a video, maybe something he read in the New York Times today, it gets pushed to Jennifer Payne's profile page. If Dr. West follows Jennifer back, it opens up private messaging, so now they can communicate one-to-one privately. We then bought an online scheduling company because we said if we're going to do all this work getting Jennifer and Dr. West together, you got to be able to book online. So we're now building that out across the country with one of the big hospital systems. We then said now we should put AskMD on this page because it's great that I can use AskMD on my phone today, but if Dr. West was my doctor, I'd just like to go to his page and fill out the virtual consult and then be able to send that to Dr. West and book an appointment. And now we're adding in all the analytical tools on Dr. West's real age scores of his patients so he can see dashboards of who's trending up and who's trending down. And that's kind of our vision of what connected health looks like. And so as we've been building out Sharecare, and I did WebMD, and kind of seeing it now, it feels so real to me. WebMD felt real too, but just the fact that how doctors and patients and health systems are really starting to collaborate. And it's even been somewhat amazing in the last 24 months how patient engagement has made its way into the C-suites, right? So when we first started Sharecare, I wasn't meeting with going to the Pentagon, or I wasn't meeting with the CEO of HCA or Catholic Trinity or all these different people. But now I think patient engagement has really hit their radar in a big way. What we've realized in building Sharecare is that one skyscraper that I've just taken you through is great for us, and we love it, and we're going to keep improving on it. But if you manage populations, a lot of these same tactics, maybe not all the floors, maybe sometimes all the floors, could help you too. So we've realized this is a population health management play as well. So what we've started to do is build multiple skyscrapers. And this is how our business has really kind of taken off from a revenue standpoint. And we're able to sell you a floor, or we'll sell you all the floors. But I thought I'd give you an example of one of the skyscrapers that we've recently built with the Army. So, what I like about the military, it's if we were all to get together and say, let's start a company and let's go after self-insured employers because healthcare costs are out of control, I bet that we would all say, hey, if we could get the DOD, that'd be a good one to start because they spend about $52 billion a year on their healthcare. And so the military health system oversees this for the DOD. There's 9.7 million lives. They spend $52 billion a year on healthcare, and it makes up 10% of the entire DOD budget. So kind of a big cost center. What we've been spending a lot of time with them understanding is how do you create, in an effort to improve those outcomes and reduce those costs, a culture of innovation. So to have a culture of innovation, we've kind of looked at this through their lens of 4 buckets. Readiness, so how do they ensure that that at any given time, how many people they have are mentally and physically prepared and resilient to deploy. Population health, how do we encourage healthy behaviors? Experience of care, how do we create a patient-centered approach? And then ultimately, how do we reduce cost? So kind of in the military with their big cost system, in an effort to create a culture of innovation, readiness, population health, experience of care, and per capita cost. We started off with them, and they put out this big RFP, and we were fortunate enough to win it. But they had an incumbent platform called Soldier Fitness Tracker, and so they had an attempt to do this, and they were mandating 2,000 soldiers a day to take it. And they had worked with UPenn to create this thing called the Global Assessment Tool. And what the Global Assessment Tool focuses on, which is an amazing assessment, is the emotional, social, family, and spiritual self of a soldier. But when we saw this, it was kind of one obvious section that was missing, and it was the physical self, right? So you had the emotional, the social, the family, the spiritual, but where was the physical? And they were starting to move in that direction as well. So they created something called the Performance Triad. And the performance triad was that big first step in that direction of the physical self. And they had, three kind of basic important goals, which is they wanted people to move more, sleep more, and eat better. That was kind of the initial goal of the program. So what we did is we built them a Sharecare called Army Fit. And this was a huge kind of technical feat for us. I'd never personally done any work with the DoD before, and we had to build the website inside of .mil. And so, we had one of the payers come to us at Sharecare, and we were doing a program with them, and they had to do a security audit on us. And so, we have like Bright Cove and Badgeville, and we have all these outside vendors that work inside of the Sharecare platform. And so the insurance company said, you guys have 40 security holes, and we patched them. And so we thought that was pretty good. When the military did a security audit on us, we had 4,800. And so they were able to find everything under the sun that they wanted to basically patch. But it was a good learning lesson for us, and we were able to get all those problems fixed. But we built it inside of .mil. And then what we next had to do, and again, I think this is kind of a fundamental approach for Sharecare in general, is that in a partnership business is you always have to be incredibly flexible. And so, they had made a huge investment in this global assessment tool. We weren't going to throw that out. We had made a huge investment in our real age test, but we were able to get all the scientists together and say, how do we combine this test? So it was kind of like the GAT and the RAT coming together to form one test so that we didn't have to ask these soldiers 400 questions. So we combined the test together without compromising the science. We then built them a similar platform like Sharecare where you can follow a topic, an expert, a program, and get a profile page. Another kind of really key learning lesson here is what I realized when we got in there was that the Army had 300 different medical websites. It was incredible. I mean, literally 300 sites that were giving medical advice at. None of them were getting huge amounts of traction, but all of them had a champion internally that thought it was the greatest idea. So somebody had a nurse triage website, somebody had a smoking website, you name it. And so what we were able to do with them is basically go to them and say, hey, we think what you've done is amazing. We want to help put more sunlight on your efforts by including that inside the platform. So we were able to repurpose a lot of what they had spent time and money on and get more traction for that. And then this is kind of what the profile page looks like for the soldier. So the soldier gets a profile page. They get their GAT results, their real age results. We created something called the Warrior Performance Index. Again, in the spirit of flexibility, the military has certain ways that they like to train their soldiers. So we built them an e-coaching platform where soldiers can come in and we look at their caloric intake versus their caloric burn every day. We developed 3,000 exercises in both male and female. We have trainers on staff that check in with soldiers on a monthly basis to see if they're kind of staying on track with all this. And most people, I always heard when I was building a business that it takes forever to do stuff with the government. This is all from meeting them, contracting with them, launching this has all been less than 12 months. And what the commanders love about it is we're able to build out these commander dashboards that are, basically just exposing the analytics in certain ways. But, Dawn and I got to go to the Pentagon, and we're in this room, and we've got these big boards out, and we're saying, okay, here's where all the bases are, and here's how they rank, and this is where you have the high BMIs, and this is where you have the most smokers, and this bases have the best marriages, and these people are the most stressed out. And it's just great to be able to, give those type of insights. And one of the guys raises their hand, and they said, why does that base have so many smokers relative to that other base when they have similar demographics? And another guy raises his hand. He says, it's interesting. There's 150 places on that base that are designated to smoke on, and there's only 20 on the other. So it might be just as obvious you gave people more places to smoke. And so it's the dashboards and the analytics are great, and sometimes the most obvious things jump out at you. And so some of the early successes, this hasn't been happening long enough where we've got major outcomes data, but we're encouraged by what we're seeing from an engagement standpoint. So if you remember what I said a little while ago, the incumbent platform, users averaged about 30 seconds per visit. And what we're finding here is that, they're spending about 18 to 20 minutes when they come in the first time. 2/3 of the users are coming back within the first 3 days. When they come back, they're spending about 6 minutes per visit. What else is nice, it's mandated for 2,000 soldiers do this every day. We're seeing over 5,000 because the soldiers are getting their family members to participate. which is a real big bonus and something that we had hoped for that's happening. And they're also consuming lots of information, not just that performance triad information of how do I sleep better and eat better and move more. And we're starting to get some success stories of people that are losing weight. And so we're building lots of these different skyscrapers out now. The military, we got the Army first, and then we just won a contract from the White House called Operation Live Well. So we've now built TMA, an Army fit called the Ultimate Me. We build baby skyscrapers, just as another way to think about how you can monetize your skyscraper. We just did a big $7 million clinical trial where we took 9,000 people in a clinical trial, enrolled them into a floor of the skyscraper, hired some e-coaches, and helped that clinical trial reduce dropout rates and compliance. We're now going to all our hospital investors, and we're building them kind of next generation patient portals. We're building our first self-insured skyscraper in Virginia in partnership with a big hospital system. So, how do you take these patient engagement strategies, marry it with coordinated care, and then sell it to large self-insured employers? And what's really promising, I think, about the future is somebody said our skyscraper's starting to look like Dubai, is how do you start to continue to add floors that users can benefit from? And so the floors that we're looking at now are transparency tools, telemedicine tools, sports medicine tools, brain fitness tools, spiritual health tools, and it's a combination of, what can we build, what can we partner for, and what can we buy so that we can build this very comprehensive approach so that a health profile can actually become a reality. And through all these various engagement tactics, depending on what data door means the most to you, we can sustain engagement in health and wellness, which has been difficult to do over time. And then what really inspires us is, how do you bring the skyscraper to the phone? Because, you look at the phone and you can't help but think this could be the greatest healing device that any of us have ever seen. And so how do I start to, for the willing and the unwilling, be able to take all these strategies that we've talked today to all these different populations and put it in the palm of their hand so it's with them every day so we can maximize impact. And we've got lots of strategies on how we're going to do that. And I promised Dr. Oz that I would end my talk today that if any of you guys are really good at mobile development, it's just Jeff at Sharecare because we're desperately looking for more help. So thank you very much.